Hi, guys. Welcome to the Invest Africa podcast. This is where we explore the exciting world of investment in Africa. I'm your host, Mubarak Abimbola.
And I'm Hawa Adebite.
Today, we are discussing Africa's investment landscape in 2024. What are the key trends and opportunities that investors should be aware of?
That's right, Mubarak. As we look ahead to 2025, Africa's investment landscape is evolving rapidly. With a growing middle class, increasing urbanization, and advancements in technology, there are numerous opportunities for investors to tap into.
We'll shed light on the opportunities that both local and international investors can seize in the few days left in 2024 and the year ahead. From fintech and infrastructure to agriculture and renewable energy, there is no shortage of growth potential in Africa. Welcome to the Invest Africa podcast.
Before we dive into the specifics, Mubarak, what sector do you think did well in 2024?
Well, Africa has long been seen as a continent of immense potential. Over the years, its investment in climate has undergone significant transformation. One sector that I'm so excited about is the renewable energy sector, with Africa's energy demand expected to increase by at least 30% in 2025. That's a huge opportunity for investors to tap into the renewable energy space. So many countries, most especially South Africa, Kenya, Rwanda, they really did wonderfully well for themselves in the renewable energy sector.
I agree with you. That's a great point, Mubarak. And according to the International Renewable Energy Agency, Africa has the potential to generate over 1,000 gigawatts of renewable energy by 2030. Isn't that amazing?
1,000 gigawatt renewable energy by 2030. That's very huge for Africa. Another sector that is worth mentioning is healthcare, with Africa's population expected to reach 2 billion. 2 billion, I'm talking about by 2050. There's a growing need for quality healthcare services in Africa. So many people still have to go outside the shores of Africa to get proper healthcare treatment. That's a great opportunity for investors who are planning to, invest in Africa. And also, another thing you should mention about the Africa's healthcare system is the fact that many of Africa's doctors, many of Africa's health personnel, they are moving away from the shores of Africa just to be able to work in a saner climate. If investment in healthcare system is increased and it is popped up, well, you would be surprised at so many returns and untapped potentials in the healthcare sector.
That's true, but as Africa's population continues to grow, the demand for quality healthcare services will only increase, making the healthcare sector an attractive investment opportunity. From telemedicine to pharmaceuticals, electronic health records, media diagnostic, a lot can be done in the healthcare system, and it is going to keep growing.
Now, another thing I feel like we should talk about, another sector that really got me pumped, is the digital transformation Africa really recorded in 2024. Let's talk about some of the key trends we are seeing in Africa's investment environment. The first major trend we should also know that you should notice is that Africa is leapfrogging traditional technologies and embracing mobile solutions. Fintech and digital services, they are at unprecedented pace. You need to talk about so many tech startups that really got seed funding in 2024. And the digital transformation that has really got into the fintech sector has made the largely unbanked population of Africa to reduce drastically, because there's a huge demand for mobile banking solutions. Mobile payments are exploding across the continent. Take for example Kenya's M-Pesa, South Africa MTN Momo, Nigeria's Money Point, OPay, Palmpay. Looking at all these fintech companies, you will be surprised that many of these companies did so well in 2024. They've revolutionized the way people make payments, the way people buy goods, the way people purchase things. There has been little or no cash transaction these days. All you need to see is people making transfer, trying to pay with their cards. And the fintech sector and the digital transformation has really helped Africa's growth in the last 1 year. And you'll be surprised that there's still much to be achieved in the fintech sector.
Fintech has become a key investment area because it directly addresses financial inclusion. Beyond just banking, we are seeing fintech solutions expand into areas like insurance, lending, I mean, lending, Mubarak, lending. It's crazy.
I mean, when talking about lending, yeah, you would realize that there are so many loan companies right now
So
that
many.
that are trying to, they give loans out. Although I don't like the way they've been going about it, because many of them they've been going through defamation to get back their cash. But you now see that fintech companies now loan out money. I mean, that's quite an interesting perspective.
Them to do, Mubarak, they have to get their money back, don't they? They have to get their money back. What do you want them to do? Of course, the defamation, it's a bad thing, but they have to get their money back, and it's just a strategy to get their money back. However, they are addressing a problem and creating solutions. So we cannot say that yes, the defamation is there, but they are addressing a solution, and it has helped a lot. I remember friends that had to take loans from these mobile banks to pay school fees, to even sort out their bills, and it's working for them. And even for wealth management, all of which are attracting major global players. So we have to say that the fintech industry is doing an amazing job in Africa.
Speaking of global players, another trend we are seeing is the rise of foreign direct investment. I mean, there's so much FDI in Africa. I think sometimes last month, the federal government had to say that the FDI of Nigeria has increased by 30%, and that's quite an interesting one. And in particular, investors from China, India, and the Middle East, they are doubling down on investment in Africa, seeing it as a critical growth hub for the future. It is interesting because Africa's growth isn't just about resources extraction anymore. Gone are those days where our colonial masters will come in and they would say, oh, they are coming in because they can mine gold, they can mine any mineral resources, or they can extract oil. Africa's investment landscape has gone beyond extraction. We are seeing growing investment in the infrastructure development, in transportation, energy, and telecommunication. These are all essential for supporting economic activity and improving quality of life.
Now that we've touched on the macro trends, let's look at specific sectors that are primed for growth in Africa in 2025 and beyond. First up, agriculture. Agriculture is still the backbone of many African economies, and it has gone far beyond subsistence farming. We have seen exportations of agricultural byproducts, from cashew to shea butter to cashew nuts to palm kernels, to different countries from Africa to different countries in this diaspora.
Talking about agriculture, talking about some of the exports Africa have done in the agriculture, did you know that cocoa bean is the 423rd most traded product in the world? And for a fact here, Cote d'Ivoire is the world's largest exporter of cocoa bean, accounting for 42% of global exports in 2023. Not to forget that in the top 5 of the largest exporter of cocoa bean, we still have 3 African countries. We have Ghana, we have Nigeria doing about $669,988,000, while Ghana did about $1 billion for cocoa exports in 2023 alone. Now, I mean, if you look at those numbers, they are great investment. They are great investment opportunities for people to put their money in 2025.
Yes, and this has led to a big push for agri-tech, with innovations aimed at improving productivity, reducing post-harvest losses, and increasing access to markets for farmers. For example, now there are mobile apps that connect farmers directly to buyers, and those kind of innovations are really gaining traction. In fact, you could be a farmer in Africa and still there are agri-techs that helps you monitor your businesses here in Africa from wherever you are. There are technologies where you can monitor things happening on your farmland, things happening. It doesn't even have to be a land, it could be things like fishery. Technology is increasing in the agricultural sector, and that has made it easier to really get more gains in that aspect.
And beyond technology, agriculture is also seeing a push towards sustainable practices. Investors are now looking for ways to improve the agricultural value chain from production to distribution. This means that there are opportunity abounds in the agricultural sector for improving soil health, water management, and even innovative farming method. I mean, you now see so many companies coming up with different ways of improving agricultural products. We have GMOs, we have improved seedings these days. So agriculture has gone beyond what it used to be 10 years ago, and agriculture in 2025 is like a great opportunity for investors who are planning to put in their money. I mean, it's just like agriculture is like the way investing in agriculture is like putting a seed on a fertile land, and you expecting it to X10 to X50, X20. So agriculture is a great investment sector for anybody looking out to invest in 2025.
Okay, now let's talk about real estate and urbanization. As Africa's cities continue to expand, there is massive demand for affordable housing, commercial real estate, and infrastructures that can support the growing population. Real estate is booming. Like, especially in cities like Lagos, Nairobi, and Accra, it is booming. When the demand for housing and urban development is like skyrocketing, there are huge opportunities for both the residential and commercial property owners in these areas.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I think one thing I love about 2024, most especially for investors and investment, is the fact that things have gone beyond what it used to be back in those days, and there are so many opportunities that now are bound to us as Africans and Africans planning to invest in Africa. I mean, talking about real estate, you would realize that gone are those days where the only thing you can do with real estate is land banking, and you have to build houses and just keep it by tying down money. Now we now have real estate flipping, we now have real estate mortgage, real estate trust. We have real estate investment groups that are bound in the cities of Nigeria and other African countries. So real estate has also gone beyond just tying money down, just trying to use it to keep the money you don't want to spend at a particular point. Real estate is now like a potential. You need to see the number of companies that are springing up on a daily basis in all African cities. I mean, they are it's shocking, but you realize that the only fear I have for the real estate investment is the fact that at a particular point, once we start the lands we should be using for farming, won't we all turn them into estate, won't we turn them into commercial buildings and so many other things? But that's the only fear. But real estate investment looks like a better way, it looks like a great way to invest in 2025.
That's so true. And in fact, another opportunity that is worth mentioning is the growth of e-commerce in Africa. With online shopping on the rise, there's huge opportunity for investors to tap into the e-commerce space. According to a report by McKinsey, e-commerce in Africa is expected to grow to $75 billion by 2025.
2025. Well, another report here states that Africa's e-commerce market was valued at $277 billion in 2023, and it is expected to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 14.4% through 2032. And this is from Statista, actually. I mean, the growth of e-commerce in Africa is fueled by over 1.3 billion mobile users and the increasing adoption of digital payment method across the continent. When we were talking about fintech the other time, we talked about how our ability to purchase things without cash has helped the African space, the Africa market space. I mean, the e-commerce growth has also been helped by the fintech sector. Not to even forget that just of late, one fintech company in Nigeria created an option of people paying with their card when they want to shop from China. I mean, you realize that all these opportunities, all these little growth, all these latest invention, they are helping growing the Africa's investment landscape. And e-commerce is also not an exception. Talking about Jumia, we now have look at what Temu is doing in the market space now, spending over $2 billion on marketing alone. Barely everywhere you go to, you see Temu marketing, and that's because they saw a potential. They saw the market in Nigeria, they saw the market in Africa, and they are tapping into it rigorously. That's another sector people should also tap into in 2025. Don't don't just want to sleep on it. That the online space is the new oil, and you don't have to sit down until it gets saturated before you also tap into the new oil money.
I mean, the e-commerce is what has actually given a lot of young Africans leverage. Right now, you can dropship anything from China just for using your phone or laptop, and you can get products in Nigeria or in anywhere in Africa to sell from manufacturers all over the world. You see young people now, I mean, on social media now, you see a lot of young CEOs selling so many marketable stuffs, and you see they are so young, and most of the time they don't even have to have huge capital to start these businesses. All they have to do is go to AliExpress, order something, and you should have heard of pre-order. Pre-order is everywhere. Everybody is into it right now. All you have to do is post on your WhatsApp, get the products, right? From AliExpress or the likes, and post on your social media that you have these things available. You get people to signify interest, you get their orders, and you send the orders to the China companies and they send it down to you. Like Mbarak said, you can even use your card to pay directly, and it is amazing. Everybody is now a CEO now because of these things, and it is growing. It is not going down, it is growing, and that is what makes it amazing.
Stores, we are not just going to tell you about the opportunities, we'll also tell you some of the fears and some of the challenges Africa's economic landscape have experienced in the last 1 year or in 2024. With all these opportunities come challenges. Africa's investment environment is not without risk. You should know that. And one of the biggest ordeal is the political instability. Coup here, coup there, military personnel taking over government, and terrorists and so many other catalysts that have affected Africa's governance space. I mean, the political instability in some region has really derailed the growth of Africa. Despite improvement in governance, there are still some countries that experiences frequent political changes, which can impact investor confidence. I know a lot of people, whenever you want to invest in ECOWAS and get to hear that Mali, Burkina Faso, and some countries they are transitioning from democratic governance to military rule or self-governance or by some personnel, it get people scared. So it is quite challenging to know fully whether political instability has derailed the growth of Africa in 2024.
Right, and while infrastructure is still growing, there are still huge gaps in transportation aspect, which has reduced the way logistics for businesses has been flowing, especially in more remote areas. This can affect people doing business in Africa, which has made it very challenging to move goods from one place to another. You see, the most recently on Twitter, there's this guy selling wristwatch. I don't know if you saw the trend recently, and he's only he has been scamming a lot of people, right? And his only excuse is that his container sank on the sea, or moving his container from clearing his container from the wharf has been a daunting task. And although he is a scam, he has been able to use the logistics aspect to scam a lot of people, and that is because it is actually a legit challenge in Africa.
Don't even go far. Going to the remote areas look like a daunting challenge at the moment. But let's even talk about in our cities, in the cities of Africa, you realize that transportation is still a major problem. Take, for example, the federal government of Nigeria just introduced the CNG conversion, and this is something Malaysia plans to stop next year, 2025. Canada plans to stop the use of CNG by 2030. So many countries are planning to transition from CNG to alternative source of transportation. Nigeria is just starting to get into using CNG as a means of transportation. CNG vehicles as means of transportation. Don't forget that right now it is only Lagos that still has intracity train system. So many states, so many cities cannot even transport themselves using rail lines. And these are things that makes life so easy in other part of the world compared to Africa. Transportation is really a big problem for the African landscape, and it's something that can really be tapped into, doing your SWOT analysis, doing a lot of background check, and see how one can revolutionize the transportation system of Africa.
To add to what you said, Mubarak, which is a very good point, because we are saying these are challenges, look at how you can get solutions from these challenges. So it's another investment opportunity. You seeing a problem, transportation is a problem in Africa, right? And you are seeing you have solutions to address these problems. So let's not also forget the challenge of currency fluctuation. Oh my God, that is something that has been affecting us in Nigeria right now. The dollar rise, even someone selling pepper would say the dollar has increased, and they are going to add huge increase on their products, and it's crazy the way it is affecting. Today you go to the market to buy something, and the next day you take the same amount to go to get the same goods, and it is already like double what you wanted or what you thought it is. So many African countries are highly volatile due to this issue, and it is something that we are really, 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 really hoping that works soon.
Yeah, talking about the currency fluctuation, you would realize that so many people became thousandaires overnight because of the fluctuation in currency. You would realize that the exchange rate is killing so many people, and this is not peculiar to Nigeria alone. Right. It's a problem that is peculiar to the whole African continent, and it's one thing the government should solve to attract foreign direct investment, because a lot of people are scared to invest their money into the continent because of the fluctuation in naira. You can invest $1,000 today, and you realize that by the time it is being converted to local currency and every other thing, and when you need to convert back your currency to dollar to your initial investment, you realize that you've run short of the investment you have, and that's a big problem and it's scary to so many investors. And I really feel if African government can really work on this, it will help attract investment into Africa. On to another challenge a lot of investors are faced in the African continent is the bureaucratic red tape. There's so many regulatory bodies in Africa trying to extort people. It is making it difficult for investors to come into countries, and it is making it difficult for people to start or sustain business. Navigating the regulatory environment can sometimes be a slow process. You have to move from one office to the other to, a lot of people just start a business. They start a lot of this. They do companies. They create companies from their bedroom. We all know how Facebook started. We all know how so many tech companies started in the US. There's no much regulatory bodies they have to go through just to invest in their space. But here in Africa, it's the other way around. A lot of people just make it difficult for you to invest. So many hands must exchange each other for you to even have a successful investment, and it's a problem for a challenge for investors in Africa.
It is actually a significant challenge for investors. Complex regulatory frameworks is actually complex, and the fact that corruption is so it has eaten deep in many African countries, and it leads to delays and inefficiency. There's lack of transparency in government processes and decision making, and it can make it difficult for even investors and businesses to navigate the system. Like, the administrative system is so inefficient, outdated technology, and it's as if they actually do these things intentionally to delay and frustrate business investors. For example, in Kenya, obtaining a construction permit can take up to 160 days. I want to start building, and I have to wait to get my permit to start building. I have to wait for 160 days. That's looking at like 4 to 5 months of waiting to get a permit to start building. And not just that you have to wait for that long. It requires multiple steps. You have to submit your plan, obtain approval from this agency to this agency to that agency. In Nigeria, to register a business takes up to 30 days, and that is just minimum, and requires multiple steps as well. Those steps can be daunting because it will waste your time and even frustrate you. Okay, the challenges now are not to scare you but to prepare you. And while we talk about challenges, we have to talk about solutions. Particularly for the last point we spoke about, Barack, which is the bureaucratic red tape. What can be done? Because this is like a systemic problem. It's not something that we can actually just say individually we want to sort out. What do you think can be done back?
Well, we need to simplify regulatory framework, to be honest. Simplifying regulatory framework can make it easier for investors and business to navigate the system. We let people know that this is where they are checking, this is what they are checking out. This is the regulatory body they have to reach out to for them to start a business or for them to invest in Africa. We don't have to make 10 bodies do just one job. I mean, this is really discouraging. Another thing is we need to improve transparency in government process and decision making. I mean, sometimes there used to be a time I wanted to file in for my tax return. I had to, go to 10 offices, carry my files from one office to the other. And, at some point I was tired. I was really tired just because I want to file for my tax return alone. Also, we need to invest in technology, including digital platforms and automation. When we are able to remove human effort in many of this regulatory process, we can have a simplified framework to ensure that people can invest. I know you're inching to talk about something when I mentioned about the tax return.
Yes. I would like to, when did you file for this tax return? How long ago was this?
I think
2 years ago. Yes. So that is a very good example, because now, if you want to file for your tax, if you want to even register as a taxpayer in Nigeria, all you have to do is just the website, and they'll send you your TIN number, and you can start filing. Send it to your employee, and that is it. Just few steps on your system, and it is done. You don't even have to go to when I did mine this year, it was online. Within 5 minutes, I got my TIN number, I sent it to my employee, and that was it. So this is like a direct example of what we are talking about. You have to go to 10 offices. I have to use 5 minutes on my system. That is the kind of encouragement that business investors need. And for the currency fluctuation problem, I think the African government has to attract foreign investment in various sectors to reduce dependence on a single commodity or currency. Right now in Nigeria, we are dependent on dollars, right? So attracting investment from other countries will actually help. Also, we need to develop our tourism sector. Tourism can actually provide a stable source of foreign exchange earnings. Do you have any suggestions?
Well, I think at this point I need to ask a question. Do you think having a unified currency in Africa, do you think that would solve Africa's currency fluctuation problem? And also to our listeners at home, do you think having a unified currency in Africa, would that solve the fluctuation of currency in Africa? I mean, now we know that Euro is strong. We can see how strong Euro is. If Africa have its own currency, probably a currency that we would all agree to be probably Africa's CDs or any name we decide to give to Africa's currency. If we have a currency of our own, would that solve the currency fluctuation problem?
Well, Mubarak, having a unified currency in Africa is a complex and debated issue. While it may offer some benefits, it actually has challenges. Well, the benefits may include reduced transaction costs. I don't have to start changing my money when I go to another African country. Then the monetary policies, there's a single currency, right? So a single currency will actually require a coordinated monetary policy, which could lead to more effective management of inflation and economic stability and the likes. It will also promote economic integration among African countries that will foster unity and cooperation in the investment areas. However, there are challenges. You see, African countries have diverse economic conditions. The economy in Nigeria, you can't compare it to that in the Gambia or Burkina Faso. So it is actually going to make it challenging to implement a single currency. Also, participating countries will need to cede some control over their own monetary policy. You don't expect that we are all having a policy because we're Africans, and trying to all come together and agree on it. It's going to actually take a lot of effort. Everybody will not agree on the same thing. So, can we actually work together in Africa like that? We need to think about it very well. Listeners, what do you think?
While I don't see the diversity of Africa as the challenge to having a unified currency, I feel like it's the unwillingness and the political interest of so many African leaders. That is what would bring difficulty in having a unified currency. I mean, we have so many countries coming together to have a euro. Countries in Europe having a unified currency. If they can do that, we can also do that. So I think the only challenge to this particular solution is the willingness of various countries' government that wants to really effect this and make it work.
Okay, so for the issue of transportation and logistics, I think we need to upgrade and expand port facilities to increase efficiency and to reduce congestion. I mean, the port issue is actually crazy, and we also need to start implementing digital platforms to streamline logistics. Reducing paperwork. We need to actually use data to analyze and optimize, transportation routes to reduce congestions, to improve supply chain management. It's actually something that we can work on. It can work if we put in the work. Also, we need to provide capacity building for most of these people in this in the transportation sector to develop their skills and expertise. Yeah, for example, there could be alternative transportation modes instead of just focusing. I mean, it's already happening, but we're not just talking about Nigeria now. We're talking about Africa. It's happening. There are waterways now, inland waterways right now, but we have to make more efforts in that regard.
Well, political instability is a significant challenge for investors in Africa, but for every problem there's always a solution. I feel like diversification of investment across different countries and sectors and asset classes can help reduce exposure to one market or one government. I mean, you don't necessarily have to put all your money in Nigeria, Ghana, Rwanda. You can always diversify your investment in various countries, and that way you can be rest assured that you're not putting all your egg in one basket. And also another thing one should consider whenever you're planning to invest in Africa, you have to do a lot of risk assessment. Conduct a risk assessment to identify potential risk and develop strategies to mitigate them. Engage with local stakeholders, including government officials, business leaders, civil society organizations, and to build relationship and stay informed about local development in each country. Also, invest in conflict resolution. I mean, these are things that will come in handy. You, as an investor, you need to be up ahead in conflict resolution to ensure that but I don't want to talk about conflict resolution. Develop early warning system. This is one thing I believe investors should always take note. They should always put into consideration. Early warning system. There's always a sign for everything. You would always notice whenever something is about to pop up, there are signs everywhere. And when you put together all these signs and trends, you can be able to forecast future problems or future challenges. opportunities, and by that time, when you're able to detect them early, you can be rest assured that your investments are safe. And finally, successful economic development and poverty reduction initiatives help address underlying causes of instability. The real truth is that many of the political instability we have in Africa is as a result of poverty. Investing in human development can also help solve Africa's instability. When there's there's lesser number of poor people, the urge for power would drastically reduce. That's just my own opinion, though. Moving forward, I think despite why we are trying every possible best to tell you sectors that are primed for opportunities and growth in 2025. We mentioned the challenges and we talked about the solutions. Well, Africa in 2024 really did great numbers, and 2025 is brimming with opportunities. But like any investment, it requires careful consideration and strategic planning. The key sector to focus on are fintech, infrastructure, agriculture, healthcare, real estate, renewable energy, and most importantly, yes, edtech. So you need to know that all these sectors have potential growth for investment.
Okay, that's right, Mubarak. While challenges remain, the long-term growth prospects are undeniable. Africa is a continent on the rise, and investors who are willing to engage with the markets in a thoughtful and sustainable way can actually reap significant rewards.
Well, guys, Invest Africa podcast would always come to your listening pleasure every week, and you can be rest assured that it's not just Awa and I that would always be here. Would always bring guests from various walks of life, guests who've done it in various sectors that will tell us our opportunities that is happening in the sector, how we can tap into them, and the growth, the challenges, and the fears. We get to hear stories from them directly, live and direct, how they've been able to, steer the water of their industry, and how they have been able to, do it successfully. You would hear stories, not only success stories this time around, you would also hear their failures, the mistakes they made at the initial stage of their investment journey, and how they were able to survive that process. The Invest Africa podcast just got better. All you need to do is like, subscribe, and follow our social media channels, and you can be rest assured that this is a journey to liberation. This is a journey to change Africa's investment landscape, and it's just going to be fun, lot of fun getting so many information.
So thank you for joining us today. We hope you found this episode insightful as you navigate Africa's investment landscape. Don't forget to subscribe, as Mubarak said, share, like, and tune in next week for a more in-depth discussion on global investment trends. Thank you. Bye.
Until next time, keep investing, keep innovating, and stay tuned.